Let us pay respect to Luang Por by making 3 bows.
Sound check. Good? Good in the back? Can you hear me? All right. So, good morning. How are you doing? Okay? Good enough? Yes. So, one of the ideas that exists in the Thai forest tradition is the idea of resting the mind, and also the idea of a vacation of the mind, citta viveka. And this model that I've been playing with, suggesting this background foreground kind of model, the idea there is that one learns to rest in awareness or rest as awareness, rather than the attention always being taken up and preoccupied with the events of the khandhas or the sense experiences. So that's not so easy to do. And that, to me, relates to the language of transcendence. In the teachings we have, there's the island, there's the harbor, there's the deathless, peace, nibbana. So the island, the harbor, the refuge, this kind of language. And you need to use kind of similes and metaphors to describe these things, because the background is not really it's not an object. So let's say I've experienced 4 temperatures in Singapore, 28, 29, and 30 and 31. It's like the range of temperatures I've experienced. Well, I've been here 5 or 6 times. In Canada, the range of temperature goes from minus 30 to plus 30. We have a range of 60 degrees over a year. Right now it's about minus 5. So it's cold and it's hot here. Now, that's the experience of the senses, but is awareness any different? Is the awareness that knows Canadian temperatures, is that awareness different from the awareness which knows Singaporean temperatures? I would say it doesn't. And to just say there is only the sense experience of hot and cold, I could never know the difference. I couldn't say to you that hot is different than cold. So in order to know anicca or change, there has to be something which is unchanging. That's the logic that I use. And I think that's not just logic, it's also experience. If one can relax the mind, I suppose. Why can't we relax the mind? Well, because of very stressful situations, and to some extent because of habit. So our attention is very easily, mostly preoccupied, very often with thinking or planning and such like. So when we have a chance to do a retreat like this, to try to put the world down, not pick up the world of our responsibilities and worries and concerns, and just rest with the background, is what I'm trying to suggest. But again, why is that difficult? Well, because the sense experience that we have are both pleasant and unpleasant. They draw our attention. So let's say just pain. Pain draws our attention. Biologically, it's necessary. And yet all of us, I think, most of you have been meditating a while, I assume, because you're very quiet and diligent, which I really appreciate. Sadhu to all of you. But consider like a meditation where you've been meditating a while, you kind of know how it works, and then you feel some discomfort, and you decide with mindfulness that I won't move on the discomfort. I'll just notice discomfort as an object. And you bear with the discomfort, and the discomfort melts, and you're very peaceful. Or another time, you feel the discomfort, and you try to force yourself not to move. I'm not going to move. And you don't feel peace because you're striving. But that simple model of discomfort, not pain. Pain you need to move on or you hurt yourself. But just the ordinary discomforts. You're sitting there and something is itching, or you feel some discomfort in the hip, and you decide just to witness it as an object. Be the knowing. And then and what's happening there is the desire mind wants to scratch. The desire mind wants to move. I want to shift myself. But because you've been meditating a few years, well, the last time I shifted, I just got more and more restless. And I think we all know that. If the clock says there's 20 minutes left to sit, and you want to move, and it's not really painful, and you move, you'll probably be just dancing by the end of the 20 minutes. You'll just be shifting all the time. But then there's something in you says, well, no, I think I'll just witness the desire to move. I'll witness. I'll just see what does that feel like. I'll practice awareness of wanting, and then very often the wanting changes, and the mind settles down, the body settles down. So what have you done? You've foregone the pleasure of movement, the immediate desire to move. You've given that up for the long-term pleasure of peace. You get that? You understand what I'm saying? And I mean, that's just very, very basic to like being a good student. A good student gives up the pleasure of going to the pub with the lads, which I did. I wasn't a good student. But giving up the pleasure of like going to the disco, whatever students do, for the sake of doing the examination, for the sake of the long-term goal of getting a degree. We all do that, and that's just a mature way of operating. And that's very much, I think, the model that the Four Noble Truths are built upon. When we feel discontent and any kind of suffering, then we inherently want to be happy. And I would say that we are built for enlightenment. That's our nature. If we listen to how craving works, because we won't really be satisfied and fulfilled until the craving actually ceases in the heart. So when like let's say, expand that model or that idea to something like worry. Worry is a habit which functions in the mind to try to deal with fearful situations. Planning is also something that deals with fearful situations. And I think we all know there's a huge difference between functional planning, strategic planning, and worry. And worry is, to me, an attachment to fear. So, for example, let's say I don't worry much, so I try to bring up a model of worrying. Let's say I get some kind of skin lesions, and the doctor says, Viradhammo, you're in the sun too much. You've got cancer. Oh, that's a pretty frightening diagnosis. That's quite scary. And then I do due diligence. I go to the doctor, and he says what and how I need to be treated. And I've done all of that. That's all I can do. But I'm afraid. I'm really afraid of, well, what's going to happen, and what about my family, and is it terminal, or what stage is it? And my mind begins to worry. And that's driven by fear, isn't it? And even though logically I've kind of done as all I could and gone to several specialists and I'm on a course of treatment, still the fear in my heart, if it hasn't been really addressed, keeps driving the thinking mind into worry. So what do I need to do? And what I need to do is look at how worry actually works. And what is worry doing? It's trying to get away from the fear. It's trying to find a solution in the future which will make me secure and feel secure. But future's unknown, don't know about this disease, so the fear cannot be cured through thought. There's no solution because it's unknown. And what am I doing when that happens? Well, when the fear arises, it is an unpleasant Vedana, unpleasant feeling. And I don't want the unpleasant. I don't want the fear. So my craving mind picks up thinking, and I start thinking to get away from the fear. And as much as I think, I haven't really addressed the problem of fear. I've addressed the problem of cancer, been to the doctor, done everything. I'm doing due diligence, but I haven't really addressed the problem of fear. So the problem of fear is that it's unpleasant, it's an object, and my attention gets hooked into it because I don't want it. I don't want the fear. I don't want the cancer, yeah. I do everything I can, but the fear is another element in that experience. So in this model of foregoing short-term pleasure for long-term release, for long-term peace, my suggestion is if you witness fear's fear as an object that arises, then the craving to get rid of it, you begin to see that, which is vibhava tanha. And you say to the fear, I love you, I've always loved you, I will always love you. Or in some way, you let that fear become conscious. And that is counterintuitive, because you want to get rid of the fear. But when you allow fear to be conscious in awareness, you're emphasizing awareness rather than trying to rectify or sort out the fear. And then the fear has a way of resolving itself. Things come up into consciousness, they stay for a while, and then they cease in the mind. So you've addressed the fear. And if you do that a lot, then the habits of fear, not the biological fears, there'll always be, but the mental habits of fear driven by ego thought, self-thought, they begin to fade away, and the mind experiences fearlessness. Not as some kind of macho or, some kind of courage that is constructed, but at the heart is free from fear. And why is it free from fear? Because you have foregone the short-term satisfaction of thinking to get away from the fear, and you bear witness to the uncomfortable nature of fear. Fear feels like this, and you're just with it, you stay with it, and it ceases because it's changing. It's not you, it's not who you are. But if you keep investing thoughts into the fear, you reignite the fear, you recreate the fear as a pattern in the mind. And this is one way of looking at the third noble truth, cessation. There is the ceasing of what we call anusaya, or latent tendencies that come up into the mind. And then you die. Or you don't. Or you live, or whatever. And you live your life. But now, you're more and more the witness. So even in the dying, the relationship to the body has kind of been altered to one, I am not the body. The body is a part of nature. My real home is awareness itself, the knowing. And that comes about by witnessing something unpleasant like fear. Also, there's the letting go of vibhava tanha, the craving to have a particular emotive experience or a particular type of mood. Even that, you say, well, it is what it is, and you bear witness to it. Now, that's hard. Undoubtedly, that's difficult, and it's not easy. But if you take that model, then that is the foreground. In the background is the knowing. There's a way of doing that, I find. And then the heart has peace, because anger has ceased. Fear has ceased. Greed, hatred, and delusion have ceased because you've allowed them to cease because you've not believed in them. You're not invested in them. Chronic pain, say, one of our monks has a lot of pain, all kinds of pain from Lyme's disease and broken ankle, and he's got multiple challenges and physically, and he has a lot of pain, and he has that capacity to know the pain as an object, and then to rest in the background. And I don't know if I could do that. He has so much pain. But when he goes into the foreground of the pain, then all the thinking and the struggle and the tension, and then he says, no, pain is an object. It's like this, and he can rest in the background. And I think that skill is one we're not usually quite often. We're not taught even in meditation, because very often we're doing our meditation. We have our object of meditation, which is good. It's fine. It's good to develop that. But sometimes there's this strong sense of always doing, getting, achieving, but awareness is not so much a doing. It's more like a remembering. Oh, it's like this. It's very, very simple. Very, very simple. So that's why I like to kind of sell this model of I'm a salesman, hopefully. I'm living with a salesman. He's a very good salesman. I'm just taking notes from him. But it does work. It really does. If you can bear witness to it. So that's why the Four Noble Truths is emphasizing not the experience, but the desire you have around the experience. Bhava tanha and vibhava tanha. The desire to get something or desire to get rid of. And if you can really plug into that, then you know where the problem is. So again, the fear is not the problem. It's the desire not to have the fear. Take anger. Say, how do you go from anger to love? I mean, logically, the experience of love, affection, kindness, generosity is so great, right? And lovely. Why would you get angry? It seems stupid to get angry, right? It's because it's not you. The anger is not you. The anger is conditioned responses from culture, from family, from your personal history that arise according to causes and conditions. It's not who you really are. So when anger arises, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. You get what I'm saying? That, or put it another way. Let's say you're a person that sometimes gets angry. I'm sure no one here does, but let's say you're a person that sometimes gets annoyed or something like that. I could say to you, okay, make sure there's no annoyance until 4 p.m. Do it. No way you can do that. Or say to yourself, I will get annoyed at 4 p.m. It doesn't work that way because it's not you. It's not who you really are. It's causes and conditions trigger things, certainly. And that's what I mean. It's not your fault. You could say, well, I got, it's my past karma, that kind of stuff. But that's not what we're working on. We're working at the present moment. So when annoyance gets triggered, you're not doing it deliberately, are you? Like, do you, in your morning meditation, say to yourself, at 3:05, I think I'll do fear. It just doesn't work that way. Fear arises, and you can see it's not you. It's not your intention, right? So having arisen, then the question is, I would say one of responsibility. Because if I'm not responsible to the fear or the anger or the greed or whatever it might be, if I'm not taking stock of what's going on, then that habit will come up again and again and again and again when the conditions are there. But if annoyance arises and then I'm willing to forbear the unpleasantness of annoyance, how do you do that? You don't blame the person that you're annoyed at. You don't blame yourself for the annoyance. You see it as an object in awareness. Don't take it personally. Don't take it personally. What does that mean? That means you don't think Sakaya Ditti thoughts or personality thoughts around it. Anger feels like this. So we go back to the same thing. It's like this. Annoyance feels like this. Then the habit of annoyance now has manifested according to vipaka kamma, but now you're the witness rather than the subject of it. You're seeing it as an object, and it arises, it stays for a while, and it ceases, and you are no longer fueling the habit of anger and annoyance or fear. And because you no longer you invest a sense of self into it, you no longer believe it as you, it dies away. So the mind moves from annoyance and anger to the cessation of anger. And that's how you move from anger to love, not through a substitution. If you try to suppress anger with love, it'll be hypocritical. If you just indulge in anger, that won't work either. We know that. That's why we're here. That's self-evident. So then, what does like witnessing anger mean? It means acceptance. And acceptance is a kind of kindness. Accepting the very anger in your own heart. So if something gets triggered in your life, I'm sure it won't, but if for some reason self-doubt gets triggered, or fear gets triggered, or anger, then are those situations bad, or are they an opportunity for purification? If you have enough mindfulness, they're an opportunity for purification. If you can just witness them and if it's an overwhelming situation and you're just reacting through them, then it's bad, because then you perpetuate it. It's not all or nothing. So this idea of resting in the background, I don't know if that works for you, but hopefully when you can rest in awareness and see objects, if you can do it in a neutral space, then in the more tense and stressful spaces of your life, those territories which are difficult, you do have some skill. You have some skills. Oh, no. Relax the mind into awareness. May I offer a story just before we meditate on harbors. So before my mother died, I asked her what might I do with her ashes, and she's from Latvia, Eastern Europe, and she said, "Well, take them to the Atlantic and float." Sprinkle them in the Atlantic, and maybe they will float to my home country, Latvia, which was an incredibly poignant moment for me when she said that. So she died, and a few months after the cremation, I went out to Nova Scotia, which is east coast of Canada, and we did some sea kayaking, and that coast is the North Atlantic. So the waters are pretty big, and there's no real land masses to block the water. So if the weather is if there's a storm like 100 miles out, the waves come in, and they can be big. So I went out with two other people, and with my mom's ashes, and we had a 5-day trip down the coast, and we were just camping on the rocks. And one of my friends his father had died, so he 2 years ago. So what he was going to put in the Atlantic to remember his dad was his dad's shaving brush. He didn't have the ashes, so he took his dad's shaving brush. And the person who was guiding us, who's an open ocean canoe guide. She had lost her dog, and so she had the dog's ashes. So there's me with my mom's ashes, her with her dog's ashes, and then Ken, who was a doctor, with his father's shaving brush. And so we set out, and on the second day we had really, really good weather, and then I was doing chanting and sprinkled mom's ashes. And then Adrian sprinkled her dog's ashes, and then Ken dropped the shaving brush with a rock down into the ocean. And I think we were all crying. It was a very, very emotional time. And then we went down the coast for And no, as we were doing this, there was a whole, what do you call it, a colony or a herd, I suppose, of seals on the shore, on the rock. It was a cliff shore, and about 100 seals. And when the seals saw us, they all jumped in the water and came to look at us, especially the young ones. And seals are very beautiful because they look like puppies. And these guys would pop up and look at us and then come down again. And I think 3 of the seals followed us for 2 hours. It was great fun. And then on the shore, we noticed there was one seal that hadn't moved and didn't move. And I realized that seal is dead. And I thought, well, there's my mom's ashes, birth and death. There's the young seals, and there's a seal that has died. Anyway, I'm getting to the point of this. Beside it being a good story, there is a point to it. So then we're heading down the coast, and we took another 3 days. And then Adrian had, she had a maritime radio. She was following the weather because it was very important. And then the waves started to get big. And we're in kayaks. And I was really enjoying it because you can just, surf down these big waves. She was really afraid because if this storm comes in, we're done. We're going to lose the monk. And so then we finally reached our final destination point, and it had this channel which went into a lovely harbor. It's a small town. And as I the waves are really big and carrying, and then it just kind of flew into the harbor, and then all of a sudden there's this incredible peace, just this silence and stillness of still water as opposed to rough water, and I remembered that description of enlightenment as the harbor. Yeah, that's what it feels like. It's like a relaxed state. It's a letting go state. It's a peaceful state. And so that image became very, very strong in my own contemplations of what is relaxing? What is a harbor? What is a refuge? What is not something that's built up and conditioned and then falls apart when conditions fall apart? And so more like I say, it has to be awareness. Awareness is the only kind of stability that is there in the experience of sense experience. So I began to really ponder that sense of what is relaxed, resting, non-becoming, and that language became very important for me. So as the more you let go of wanting, the more relaxed the mind is. The more you let go of pushing things away, the more you come into the background. But there's a lot of work to do because the material that comes up is sometimes unpleasant. And that's the idea of purification. So again, for me, like just working through my fears and social anxieties has been hard work, not pleasant, but the result is lovely because it's not manufactured. And the freedom from fear is not something that's manufactured. It's just freedom from fear. And then the heart has a chance to respond with the Brahma Viharas. So again, if things come up in your life or in your practice, if you can witness them as objects and not become the subject, you start to release them from consciousness. Consciousness is the escape hatch. They go away. Don't be afraid of them. If you're getting overwhelmed, then get out of there. If you can. Because you need to be mindful to do this. Okay, I think I've spoken too much. So let's stretch your legs, and then we'll do another meditation. We'll sit for 45 minutes again. I'll give a bit of instruction, but if you have your own way of practice, then please carry on, but just to kind of get us going. Taking up that model, listen to sound. Receptive listening. Notice the changing nature of sound. Awareness is unchanging. So the stillness of knowing, the stillness of being, non-becoming, non-resistance, resting in awareness, resting as awareness. And then introducing the attitudes of kindness as a suggestion. So bring attention to the chest. Feel the breath at the chest, rising and falling. On the in-breath, may I be well, at the chest. Out-breath, may all beings be well. Feeling the breath at the chest. So on the in-breath, just let that language just fill you with kindness. May I be well. And then giving outwards, may all beings be well. Simple language, simple suggestion. Do that for a while, and then when you feel that sense of receptive stillness, then you could practice shikantaza, or choiceless awareness if you want. And that is where you're just witnessing the changing nature of sense consciousness, but not going out into it. It's quite difficult. You're just resting in awareness, things coming and going. Some people like that, some people don't. So if you find you want to anchor yourself, then use the breath if you want. So the anchoring is simply a place to practice the awake mind. So it's about the awake mind, knowing the way things are. With choiceless awareness, awareness itself is the anchor, knowing the way things are. I know that's a bit vague, but play around with that, or pick up your own practice, whatever works for you. The same reminders about dullness then. Push the hara forward, open the chest, straighten out the back of the neck, raise the head, establish a strong posture, open the eyes, and then watch the posture as the meditation. And when the head starts to drop, see if you can interrupt the thinking process by more body awareness. So I'm going to disappear again, but if that suggestion of background, foreground makes any sense to you, then the language that I find reminds me of that is a language which is the opposition to craving. So, like let's say if you're doing walking meditation, and you get to the end of the path, and then you say it's like this, and then the language of the opposites of craving would be non-becoming. And for me, again, I use language to evoke attitudes. I use language in many ways, but that word evokes for me a sense of not going anywhere, trying to get anything, trying to achieve anything, trying to see anything, non-becoming. And so it's a very relaxing word for me, non-becoming. And then the other, for vibhava tanha, I use non-resistance. So, non-resistance. And then the language of it's like this is around kama tanha. Kama tanha is the constant consuming of experience. You're always doing something. So I get to the end of the path, I say non-becoming. It's like this, non-resistance and resting in awareness. And then walk to the other end and try to sustain that attitude, those attitudes. And then what I find, if I use language in that way, it's not much language, but it is language, and it comes from my own insights. So, samaditi is the cause for sammasankappa, right understanding is the cause for right thought. And right thought doesn't have to be scriptural thought. It's thought that is your own, it's your own territory because you've understood something. And that understanding is insight. You want to remember your own insights, which is not like trying to get an experience. Trying to regain an experience would be bhava tanha. So you get to the end of the path, it's like this, silent knowing, nothing to do, non-becoming, non-resistance. So that does take effort, but it's the effort of awakening. Okay, so let's say we do some walking meditation or sitting till lunchtime, and I'll see you at 2:15.
Let us pay respect to Ajahn by making 3 bows.
Okay, see you later.